All right. Thank you, folks, for coming out tonight. Welcome to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for October 2nd, 2025, 7:30 p.m. First up, we have business items. And the only business item that we do have is acceptance of minutes drafted for the 9/15/2025 Planning Board meeting. And if anybody wants agenda, it's on the front table if you're so inclined. So any questions or comments on the acceptance of minutes for 9/15 that were written by our admin over here? Any questions or comments? Okay, without questions or comments, do we have a motion?
I move adoption of the 9/15/2025 meeting minutes.
Okay, we have motion from Eileen,
Second.
second from Walter. All right, 2 seconds, but we'll just start down there. So Walter,
Aye.
Jane, Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, so we're good to go on the minutes. Next up, we have an application that has been before us before, and they're going through the steps of the process. And that is 95 Pratthurst Avenue. This is a continuing application, so it's not a public hearing. So this one is, the applicant is addressing us and the board as opposed to us taking comments from the public. So, but the public is welcome to be here, but this is not a public hearing. 95 Pratthurst Avenue, Blythedale Children's Hospital, 3-phase improvement plan, including expansion for long-term care, parking deck, and improvement to site utility infrastructure. Application site plan SP 25-02, location 95 Pratthurst Avenue, Valley, New York. Section block lot number is 117.17-1-2. Zone R40. Owner and applicant Blythedale Children's Hospital. Engineer architect.
Zone R20.
What's that?
Zone R20.
Oh, zone R20. Oh, I must have said something different, I guess. Okay, engineer architect Langen Colliers, E4H Architectures. It's good to have good people on the board. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you very much for having us, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. For the record, my name is Janet Garris. I'm a partner with Del Bello, Dinelli, Weingarten, Wise & Whitaker here this evening on behalf of Blythedale. We do have our entire consulting team here this evening. As you may or may not remember, we were last here on July 21st. And at that time, we had already responded to a number of comments, not only from your planning consultant, but from your town engineer, as well as your traffic consultant. Since that time, we have made a number of submissions to you in response to comments that we've received from your consultants, including your traffic consultant. So mid-August, we submitted an updated and revised traffic study that responded to all of the comments received from Labella. I know that when we were last here, we were asked to submit correspondence that was transmitted by us to the DOT with regard to the potential access to Grasslands Road. We submitted that to you, as well as DOT's response to you, which we submitted mid-August. And then we were really waiting to come back to you, waiting for engineering comments from the town engineer in response to our last submission. So we received comments from the town engineer on September 22nd. We very quickly turned around responses to those comments, and those were submitted, and they are in your package this evening. We are happy to go through any and or all of those comments and details at your discretion, whatever, Mr. Chairman, is your pleasure. Our entire consulting team is here this evening, but we do believe that we have adequately addressed the comments that are outstanding. We are hopeful that you're in a position this evening to set a public hearing, and we hope that you can do that for October 20th.
No, I don't want you to go through detail, but can we do a high-level summary of your engineering comments? Just a quick high-level understanding of your comments back to our town engineer.
Okay, so
For
there
the
were,
public.
so I will rely on our consulting team for that. There were a number of different comments and different disciplines. So there were some utilities comments, there were some traffic comments, which were in some respects a little bit different than those of your traffic consultant. So I am happy to have our consulting team go through
High level,
those.
so.
And high level, okay. So why don't we start with, we can start with traffic. Rich D'Andrea from Colliers, who is our traffic engineer, he can talk about the traffic things. Mike Finan, who is our civil engineer from Langen Engineering, can talk to you about any of the utilities things. And then our architect is also here this evening, and we're happy to answer any questions. We have our architect for our parking structure here this evening. And just to give you an update, I am meeting with your building official early next week just to finalize the variances. We've had a couple of meetings. We've made some dimensional tweaks to some of the plans at his direction, and we are finalizing those. The plans haven't changed at all, just some of
Yep.
the striping and other things. So
Yep.
we're working on those things, and then
Yeah, and I'm personally, and I think the rest of the board is personally up to date on the engineering comments, but there may be people watching tonight, so I just high-level summary. So, thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, I can keep it brief. So on the Rich D'Andrea, Colliers Engineering Design, on the traffic comments from your town engineer, there were some comments on how we address traffic in the study as far as what projects we included. The engineer's opinion was that we shouldn't have included the North 80 project, because it wasn't approved. Although Labella had a different opinion and that we should include it. It was included in our study. And our opinion is it should be because it was identified previously as a proposed project, and that's typically how we would address traffic for other developments in the area.
and that makes it a more conservative study.
Right. There were some questions about the methodology for determining how much traffic the project's going to generate. We based our generation based on the existing generation of the facility. The town engineer's opinion is that we should look at ITE data for a typical hospital. Again, Labella had a different opinion. They agreed with our approach. New York State DOT generally agreed with our approach as well. The thing with that is if you look at hospital generation from ITE, from Institute of Transportation Engineers, you're looking at a whole new facility. This isn't a whole new facility. There's other back-end things that are incorporated in a hospital that would generate traffic that we're not necessarily adding as part of the expansion. So we still see it as more appropriate to utilize the existing traffic generation of this facility to project what we're going to generate in the future. There was some questions about the growth factor and things. Generally what we're saying is we provided a more conservative analysis than what the town engineer is recommending. There was some questions about the operation of the southerly axis and how that's going to function, whether we're restricting movements or could we provide a channelizing island to further restrict left turns out of that driveway. We said that based on conversations with DOT that we will have, if they approve that, we will do that. And there was some question about the need for further analysis or a left turn lane at the north axis, something that DOT brought up. Our opinion right now is that it's not needed. It's a slow speed road, and there's really no accident history to support it. That determination is really going to come out of DOT. It's their roadway, and we'll have to address that further with them as we go through the review process. I will say that DOT had made that comment specifically. We've addressed their comments and responded to them. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but at the end of August, so we're just waiting for a response back from DOT on that one.
Okay,
So,
Thank
and
you
that's
very much.
generally the engineer's comments.
thank you. Okay, so questions or comments from board members on 95 Bradhurst Blythedale Children's Hospital?
There was a question about the amount of fill to be removed from the site and the number of trips, and I would just like to be assured that there will be a traffic management plan prepared for the route that would be taken prior to issuance of a building permit.
Right, so Mike is here and he can answer that, but I think that as one of the responses, we did talk about there being a construction management plan in place prior to the commencement of any construction,
Okay.
which would detail all of those things. and
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's enough. I got it.
Sometimes I play an engineer on
Yeah.
TV.
Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, so what we're here at this point is to make a decision not on the application, rather on the readiness of this to be available for a public hearing, or be ready for a public hearing, excuse me, rather say that.
So this is an unusual application. It requires a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals as well as the variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. You need to move along your seeker review prior to those decisions being made. Plus, we have history with neighbor involvement with this property. So it's beneficial to obtain that neighbor comment sooner rather than later. So I think in this particular instance, because of the uniqueness of this application, it's appropriate to get to the public hearing stage as soon as possible. You can always keep the public hearing open while the applicant makes its way through the other boards. But I think as we've learned from other applications, neighbors have a lot to say about this, and some of that information is helpful.
All right, and just to be clear, we're not, the board knows, and just make sure if anybody's here in the room or watching us, this is more specifically, is it ready for the public hearing? We dotted the i's, we crossed the t's, and have they dotted the i's and have they crossed their t's? And I think we're pretty close to being there.
So they have, with respect to the application as it stands today. If we choose to move things based on public comment, that's a different story. But at the moment, based on the plan that's before you, it's suitable to commence the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask the board one last time, any final questions or comments from the board?
Can your traffic engineer come back up and address the grassland entry exit that the DOT looked at?
Sure. DOT did take a look at that. Their response back was that they did not feel it was a safe location for an access due to the proximity to Bradhurst Avenue and the ramp to the Springbrook Parkway, along with the fact that you have the right turn lane to the Springbrook Parkway there. So their opinion was not a safe location, and that they would not permit it, and that they felt that the two access points on Bradhurst Avenue were sufficient for the property.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
My comment, I know you said the northern exit point, the left lane turn, that there wasn't any accident information from the DOT. But the neighbors have provided multiple, I don't know how far the DOT goes back with that.
So-
There were quite a few accidents.
So what I'll say is, the data that we collected from DOT, or requested from DOT, covered from 2018 to 2024. So approximately 6 years of data. The accidents that we were provided showed just one accident at the driveway itself during that time period. There were other accidents noted by one of the residents in their comment letter. We did take a look at those. Those were not included in the data set that we provided by DOT. We are looking into other information to determine what those were. I will say one of those accidents was from 2015. I'm not sure if we'll get information on that one. The more recent ones, there was one, I guess, very recently in August. So we're trying to get information on those, and once we have that, we can provide some more information.
Did you speak to the Mount Pleasant PD about?
We made a request to the Mount Pleasant
Did you get
PD.
anything?
Not yet. Yeah.
Now, if we do go to a public hearing, we do have some latitude with how we do notices. And I did say, me personally, so I'm just one member of the board, I think it would be good faith to make sure it's beyond just the adjoining property owner, so, and not go crazy. But the main streets, Thomas Place, Armand Place, Lisa Lane,
Yep.
there's one more, that new house in development, I can't remember the name of it. Pleasant Ridge, thank you. And the homes on Bradhurst Avenue. I think that would, I stated the fact that I think we wanted to make sure people were well aware of the public hearing, and everybody knew that it was for a given night. So,
If you like, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to explain that to the applicant so
Yeah.
we get a clear definition of
Yeah.
who they should notify.
yeah. Okay, any final questions or comments?
And Janet, just, you have no objection to a wider notification area?
No. Okay, so with that being said, we think the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. Sometimes I reverse that, but I didn't do that now. All right, so we think the i's are dotted, the t's are crossed. We think the public hearing We have enough material and everything is done correctly in terms of documentation and everything else, so we're ready to talk to the public and get feedback from them. So, with that being said, does the board have any thoughts about what to do with this application?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Schedule it.
Schedule a public hearing. Motion from JD,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter?
Aye.
Jane? Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
And aye from me. We'll see you at the public hearing.
So that will be October 20th?
I'll
then?
let staff handle the scheduling of that.
Sounds great. Thank you very
I don't get involved in
much.
that end of the business.
Okay.
It's way
We
above my pay
appreciate
grade.
it. We look forward to being back before you.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is a town board referral. I'm going to read this out to you. It's a little long. Local law amendment, planning board's review and referral to town board on its proposal to draft local law amending the zoning code definitions under Town Code 218-3, adding definition of family and enacting 218-20-7.7, affirmatively prohibiting rumors or borders in the town, as well as removing a reference to rumors or borders in Town Code Chapter 218, Attachment 1. Application Town Board referral, location 1 Town Hall Plaza, applicant is Town of Mount Pleasant. So we have received quite a few things from the Town Board, as well as some other items from our planning consultant to help us understand it a bit more. Let me just make sure people understand what this means. This zoning amendment that's proposed, there's nobody here, but in case somebody's watching, puts some limits on borders and what else? Rumors. I'm not sure I've ever heard that word rumors before. But borders or rumors are people living in your house who are not from a traditional family setting, I guess is what this is saying. Any questions or comments on this? Now, we could do a couple things too, by the way. We don't have to do anything, number
Right.
one. We can create a positive declaration back to the town board or a negative declaration.
So the town board is basically asking your opinion about this proposed amendment to the local law.
Right.
So they're proposing this amendment for ADUs?
So it's an amendment to the definition of family. So one of the tricky issues associated with this is family doesn't only apply to ADUs, it applies to all sorts of things in the town. So we have to be careful on the implications of this modification townwide through all the areas where we regulate a family.
So we're looking to change possibly what the definition of family is for people living in somebody else's home.
It is a more restrictive definition of what a family is. That's essentially my understanding of this.
So they're defining a boarder or roomer as a person who permanently occupies a room in a dwelling unit for sleeping purposes for which he or she pays monetary or other compensation directly or indirectly to the property owner residing therein. And then they go into this definition of family.
So the definition of boarder or roomer is a new one that's being added so that we can say elsewhere they're not permitted.
That's correct. So we have the use had been traditionally existing in the code without a definition. So
Okay.
this sort of catches up to that, so it could be more effectively regulated. So that's the clear part of it. The family definition is the other part where it's a little more complicated.
So the local law says the town board has recently been informed of situations where homeowners are renting sleeping rooms to roomers or boarders within the town's residential zoning district. So that's the reason that's what prompted the
That's
change in
correct.
definition.
That's correct.
And then what it's basically saying is, in all districts, the letting of rooms to roomers or boarders by an owner occupying a dwelling, which shall constitute the principal use thereof, shall be prohibited. Further, any reference to room or boarding as permitted by the town code are hereby deleted. So they're amending the definition of, or they're adding, or defining what a boarder or roomer is, but then also putting those restrictions in place.
Yeah, and again, just so I wasn't involved in the preparation of this, it came from the law department essentially, but This is complicated for a number of reasons. We have, for example, as Eileen pointed out in an email last night, we have educational institutions in the town. So is this directed at students renting a room that go to Pace or Westchester Medical College, for example? Is it related to short-term rentals like Airbnbs? There's a lot of overlapping issues that relate to this. And again, I'm not sure how it all fits together in the definition that's been.
It leaves a lot of room for interpretation, and the example I brought up was a group home, and they do exist in town. And does that mean, does this apply to a group home setting? That they do exist in town, and these people are not related, but they're living in the home, but the home does exist already?
And then also, we want to get rid of boarders and roomers, but we still have a use rooming house, so how does it impact that? I have a lot of questions about it that weren't answered in the referral, and I think it's not great to have a definition that's, usually a definition is a few sentences. This is 5 times longer than anything else in the definition, any other definition in the zoning ordinance. So I'm hoping that we can kind of say what we mean instead of so many layers to it.
And again, the layers may be appropriate, provided we understand what the layers are intended to achieve. I just can't represent that to you.
And the unintended consequences, I want to make sure that we
And I
consider
did share
those.
with you this afternoon some examples of many other communities in the county and how they define family. There are a couple that are complex like this. Most of them are the 2-sentence definition of a family. So whenever we create something that's substantially different than the norm, it opens us up for challenges. So I think we need to be careful that we're creating something that's defensible and bomb-proof and it's achieving the goals we need to achieve. I'm just not the guy to explain that to you. I think that comes from the law department.
And we did get feedback from the county planning board,
Yep, which was not favorable.
which is essentially not favorable, and had their own comments to make on it. I have my own thoughts. Before I express my thoughts,
I don't know what they're really trying to accomplish. I think if I had a better understanding of what the end accomplishment
Yeah,
was,
I
could
think
make
Jim
a better-
summarized it. They got complaints about people that weren't part of the family and the Joneses down my block. It looks weird. How do we deal with that? And I think
but
that's,
there's so many situations that are out there, permutations of different people. Like, for example, my aunt had a maid live in her house for years. Does this apply? She wasn't related to my aunt, but she lived in the home.
yeah.
Does this apply to people in that situation or not?
Or I wanted to open up my home to a family friend who was, going through a divorce or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
Those are unintended consequences here. I think it's a little bit of an overreach to.
Yeah, again,
define
it may be, I don't want to characterize it as that because I don't know enough about it, but I think if you had Darius in to explain this to you, I think you might get a better firsthand understanding of what this is supposed to mean.
But- And Darius can frame it, but at the end of the day, we're not really doing a great job with the definition of a family and boarder and roomer and an explanation of what in the proposal to begin with.
Right, you got a draft local law, there wasn't the preamble to it that says, this is why we're doing this. That would have been helpful. And again, you can not do anything. You've got a 30-day window within which you're required to comment. I think you can do nothing. Say, we didn't understand it, it's up to you, town board. I think this is something that's an issue you should pay attention to and should have some feedback on. I think if you said to the town board, can you give us another 10 days and give us 40 days or 45 days? If Darius can come in and give us an explanation, we'll give you a better recommendation. I think that's helpful. I think the
Is our
plan.
next meeting within that 30-day time frame that we could maybe ask that Darius come and explain it?
Our next meeting is 20th. Is there a public hearing, I think is 14th?
And they can keep the public hearing up. So the referral was made on the 26th of September. So theoretically, yeah, we'd be within the 30-day window.
I just think of the person in the building department who's interpreting this to say, okay, you get your mail there, you've been there for a year, you work local, it's just a lot of layers, and
Yeah.
who would it apply to, who wouldn't it?
And how would it be
It's-
enforced?
Yeah,
Yeah, who in the town hall is gonna have the time to figure out who's,
We're asking for identification.
how are we
Yeah,
gonna know?
And the term traditional is fraught. I think that's problematic.
And that was my point, Eileen, that when you start adding language that's not typical of a definition, that's when lawyers jump on those sorts
Yeah.
of things. So what's traditional mean?
You know, people buy houses, and with houses come certain rights. And I'll tell you a funny, not a funny story, but a friend of mine moved from Mount Pleasant to Lake Tahoe, good for him, bought a house, found out it was too expensive, he rented out several of the rooms, and he did that for like 5, 6 years, and then he was able to straighten it out. But that's the only way he kept the house for all those years.
Yeah.
And now that house is, you know, his retirement package.
You know, it's interesting, we have a very good accessory apartment law.
Yeah.
It's protective of neighborhoods, it's limited, and it achieves a goal of providing exactly that. Second source of income for a building if you can meet all these rules and regulations. So it had nothing to do with the definition of a family. That already existed. If this is intended to somehow affect accessory apartments, we already have a good law. Why do we have to tweak that? If
Well, that law prohibits a lot of homes styles from being used in the accessory apartment. So
It does,
this-
and I think the criticism, Jim, for this is, we don't like it. There's too many people doing this stuff in our community. We have a problem with that. So our accessory apartment law is pretty restrictive, but if you meet the rules, you can do it. So it's not as though we're prohibiting people from having a legal accessory apartment.
But a legal accessory apartment would have its own kitchen, correct?
It would have its own kitchen, that's right. So a boarder, that's exactly the distinction. You're sharing kitchen and housekeeping
And we
facilities.
frankly don't have the staff to in town hall to police this.
Well, it would come with, if there were complaints, then,
Well, I think that's what's happening, right?
that would happen.
The community is self-policing this issue right now, and I think the town board is reacting to it. How do we better deal with this? How do we better regulate this? So I think the law department reacted to that and drafted something. I just don't know if it's been considered, all the ramifications of this have been thought through necessarily. Or maybe they have, I'm unaware of that.
Is the problem that rampant that it requires this type of?
That's,
response?
JD, that's always the question. Is it this one loudmouth that's created this problem, or is it prevalent? I don't know. I don't know.
But then I see both sides. If you're owning a home and you want to enjoy your quiet enjoyment of your home, and now someone has several
Yeah.
boarders and they're, parking on the street, or they're parking on the lawn, or whatever, and it changes the character, I can see both sides, but you have to be very careful that you're not.
Except that
Absolutely.
we have rules against those things.
We
Loud
do.
music and parking on the we have
We-
rules against that.
we
So,
do.
so if they're posing hazards to life, limb, and property, and exacerbate blight, contribute excessive vehicle traffic and parking problems, those are things that we can address without
Right.
going this way.
We can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even here, you know, it should be presumptive evidence that 4 or more persons living in a single dwelling unit who are not related by blood, marriage, or legal adoption do not constitute the functional equivalent of a traditional family. So if I changed my life and met a woman and she moved in and she had 2 children that she never adopted, but they were her children somehow.
And that was 6 people under the same roof?
So does this, like this would presume, or the way this is written, they couldn't do that?
That's,
Or 4 or 5 PACE students who want to rent a house together, that would not be permitted. Okay.
There's hundreds of examples.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm inclined to either wait or to do a negative declaration.
Again, I just can't deliver to you enough background to
Yeah.
help guide you, so I'm out.
I think we need more information too.
Yeah. Can we ask the town attorney to appear at
Absolutely,
our
I'm
last
sure he'd be
next
delighted.
meeting?
I'm sure he'd be very happy to come.
Okay.
It's the place to be.
You
So-
said it, man.
Okay.
I think that's another stretch.
All right.
So if you like that, Mr. Chairman, I'll convey
yeah,
that
let's
to
do that.
Darius.
I just don't want to get into the business of people's homes and who's living where, who's not.
And this is directly
I
into
agree.
people's homes and people's families. That's,
Right.
Mhm.
gotta be careful.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, that was the last item on the agenda. I
Do
don't
we
think
adjourn that
we-
officially? The discussion?
So you don't have to.
Okay.
until we get to the 30 days. And that's when we would convey something back to the town board, either give us a little more time, but I think we have a window. So I think we'll just ask Darius to show up at our next meeting if we could do that. we
And can you convey our concerns to him?
Absolutely.
I'm kind of curious about the group home situation, because the way that's written specifically, they would not be able to do a group home in Mount Pleasant.
So typically, and I don't know if we do it, the definition of a group home exempts them from
I don't think we have
traditional.
a definition. I was looking for it today. I don't think
We don't,
define-
Eileen, did you say?
Yeah, I don't think we
So
define
the
group home.
state who regulates group homes does, and the state legislation is explicit that you can have, under the supervision of, and the license of the state, whatever it is, education department, you can operate multiple adults or minors in a
So-
facility. That's not considered a family.
True, but then all we need is somebody from town saying, well, I'm reading the town code says this, and I have a group home near me, and I don't want it there anymore, so they need to go.
Yeah, the thing that I've encountered with group homes, I think the state language exempts the traditional occupants, but they're manned 24 hours a day, so staff doesn't fall under that. So if you have a couple of staff people that are not a family, they're in violation of that definition. So that's my point.
Yeah.
All sorts of different rules and regulations revolve around the definition of a family.
And I just don't know, I manage my own life barely, and I don't know how people live, and I don't want to, and I don't really care, and I don't want to get into their houses and figure out, well, you're family, you're not family, you are family, you're not family. It's a real slippery slope, I feel. So,
And again, we have ways to regulate the things that are problems.
fix the problem, not this way, fix it with the other ways. If there's people parking on lawns, if there's people having block parties, people having other issues, there's ways to address that.
Yeah.
But if I rent out a room in my house because I'm full on hard times, then why couldn't I?
But does it also create if a homeowner starts subdividing within the house, putting up false walls?
Yeah, that's the
fire department
obvious.
doesn't know anything about
They
what's
they
going
never
on.
do, because that's done illegally typically. And it's not until a neighbor complains that we ever learn about those sorts of things. But all of that work inside the building was done illegally. They'd get violations, they'd have to come to town court and explain that. So again, there's a stopgap protection that already exists with respect to the greedy landlord that's chopping up his house to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we know where we are on that. Okay. So we have a motion to close the meeting.
So moved?
Motion from Eileen,
Second?
second from Jane. Walter?
All right.
Jane?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
And I from me. We don't always do that, but it's actually good practice.